Hi. Today, I am going to explain a psychological thriller movie called Oldboy. The film opens right in the middle of the action. We see a shadowy figure gripping what looks like a rope, but it's actually a necktie. And at the other end, another man, hanging off the side of a building, literally dangling by a thread. The man holding the tie is Oh Dae-soo, played by Choi Min-sik, who insists that the hanging man listen to his story. We're then taken back to 1988. Dae-soo is an average Korean businessman with a wife and a young daughter. On his daughter's 4th birthday, he gets picked up by the police for being drunk and causing a scene. Dae-soo makes a spectacle of himself at the police station, even showing off a pair of angel wings he bought as a birthday gift for his daughter. Eventually, his friend Ju-hwan arrives to bail him out. But as Ju-hwan makes a call to Dae-soo's wife, Kim Ja-hyun, and daughter Yoon-hee from a phone booth, Dae-soo mysteriously vanishes, abducted by unknown assailants. When we next see Dae-soo, he's locked in what looks like a worn-down hotel room, but he's the only guest here. He quickly realizes he's trapped, with no information about who's holding him or why he's there. Meals arrive through a small hatch at the door, and anytime he tries to harm himself, he's knocked out with gas. His captors don't want him dead, just caged. His only link to the outside world is a TV, and one day, he learns through the news that his wife has been murdered, his daughter has been sent to foster care, and he is the main suspect. His captors have even planted his DNA at the crime scene, framing him for the crime. With each piece of horrifying news, Dae-soo's mind edges closer to madness, haunted by nightmarish visions. Desperate to make sense of his situation, Dae-soo starts a prison diary, filling notebook after notebook with his life story and listing anyone he might have crossed. But despite his efforts, he can't pinpoint anyone with a motive strong enough for such extreme revenge. After 5 years of this tortured confinement, he begins tattooing a line on his arm for each year he's been locked up. Dae-soo forces himself to toughen up, shadowboxing relentlessly until his knuckles are hardened with calluses from punching the walls. Then, a twist. One day, his usual delivery of fried dumplings comes with an extra metal chopstick. Dae-soo hides it and uses it to start chipping away at the wall. Over the next 10 years, he trains his body, keeps up with the outside world through TV, and steadily works on his escape tunnel. Finally, he manages to loosen enough bricks to glimpse the world beyond, estimating he only needs a few more weeks to make his way out. One night, Dae-soo is knocked out by gas once again, and a mysterious woman hypnotizes him. When he wakes, he finds himself in an unfamiliar place, free for the first time in 15 years. He's on the rooftop of a new building built over the site where he was originally abducted, wearing a fresh suit and holding his prison diaries. As he adjusts to the glaring sunlight, he spots another man sitting near the rooftop's edge with his small dog. Dae-soo, unused to human contact, is momentarily stunned. This stranger, who seems ready to end his life, says, "Even though I'm no better than a beast, don't I have the right to live?" Right as he tries to jump, Dae-soo grabs his necktie, saving him just in time. He tells the man to hold off on his leap, he's got a story to tell. The man, startled, simply replies, "What?" And with that, we're back where the movie began. Just as Dae-soo reaches the building's entrance, he hears a loud thud. The stranger has jumped, hitting a car below with his pet. Roaming through the city, Dae-soo feels completely lost. Framed as his wife's murderer, his newfound freedom doesn't bring the relief he hoped for. When a gang of thugs harasses him on the street, he finds that his years of intense training have turned him into a force to be reckoned with. He fights them off with ease, relying solely on his fists. Later, as he watches fish swimming in an aquarium, a homeless man approaches and hands him a wallet stuffed with cash and a cell phone. Soon after, Dae-soo crosses paths with Mi-do, played by Kang Hye-jung, a young woman working at a sushi bar. He recognizes her from a cooking show he watched during his years in captivity, and oddly enough, she feels like he's familiar too. Then, his phone rings, and an unidentified voice claims responsibility for imprisoning him. The caller taunts Dae-soo, calling it a little experiment, and challenging him to uncover the truth behind his 15 years of suffering. Dae-soo asks Mi-do for something alive to eat, and with a mixture of determination and shock, devours a live squid. Witnessing this bizarre scene, Mi-do is both horrified and curious. Dae-soo then collapses with a high fever, and Mi-do, showing a surprising sense of sympathy, decides to take him in. Back at her apartment, Dae-soo hits a low point and, in a moment of desperation, tries to force himself on Mi-do. She manages to fend him off, understanding that his outburst is a twisted result of his trauma. She tells him that when she's ready, she'll make love to him, and she'll let him know when the time comes. Over the next few days, Mi-do helps Dae-soo look into his past. She discovers that his daughter was adopted by a Swedish couple, though Dae-soo decides he's not ready to reach out to her just yet. But when he returns to Mi-do's place, he discovers she's been messaging someone online. Suddenly, his captor's face appears on her screen, shattering Dae-soo's fragile trust. Furious and suspicious, he leaves, unable to shake the feeling of betrayal. Driven by a hint from his meals in captivity, Dae-soo realizes that all those dumplings he ate for 15 years came from a specific Chinese restaurant. Remembering a torn receipt with the name Blue Dragon, he sets off on a tour of every Blue Dragon restaurant in the city. After some trial and error, he finally lands on the right one, Magic Blue Dragon. Following the delivery boy on his route, he discovers the prison that held him captive. Once inside, Dae-soo tracks down the prison's manager, Mr. Park, and gives him a teeth-clenching lesson in pain, literally. Armed with a claw hammer, he pulls out one tooth for each year he spent locked up. Mr. Park, understandably chatty now, points Dae-soo to some recordings. From one recording labeled with his name, Dae-soo learns that this prison is a private setup where clients can pay to have anyone disappeared. His captor not only paid for his 15-year sentence but also specified the drugs to keep him somewhat sane. As Dae-soo leaves, he's jumped by the prison guards, but after 15 years of punching walls, he's ready. With his hammer and bare fists, he manages to fend them off, though he takes a knife to the back. Barely standing, he's found by a man who loads him into a taxi and sends him straight to Mi-do's address. In a chilling twist, this man reveals himself as Dae-soo's captor, but Dae-soo is too weak to do anything. Back at Mi-do's place, she tends to his injuries, nursing him back to health. When Dae-soo recovers, he visits his old friend, Ju-won, at an internet shop. He plays the recording, but Ju-won can't recognize the voice. They do, however, identify Mi-do's online chat buddy, who goes by the username Evergreen. They reach out to Evergreen, who smugly congratulates Dae-soo, taunts him about the dismissed murder case, and mocks him over his imprisonment. Enraged and suspicious, Dae-soo heads back to Mi-do's place and, in a moment of desperation, tries to force more answers out of her. Just then, Ju-won calls back, saying he traced Evergreen's user ID to an address nearby. Dae-soo realizes it's in the building right across from Mi-do's apartment. He rushes over, and after some snooping, finally comes face to face with his captor, a man named Woo-jin, played by Ji-tae, and his bodyguard, Mr. Han. Dae-soo tries to attack, but Mr. Han quickly overpowers him. Woo-jin tells Dae-soo he can't kill him, because if he does, he'll never know why he was imprisoned. And if Dae-soo tries to torture him, Woo-jin smugly reveals that he has a pacemaker he can remotely shut off if things get too intense. Instead, Woo-jin proposes a twisted game. Dae-soo has 5 days to figure out why he was imprisoned. If he fails, Mi-do will die. If he succeeds, Woo-jin promises to kill himself. As Dae-soo leaves, Woo-jin slyly reminds him he left his front door open. Dae-soo rushes back to find Mr. Park and his thugs have broken into his home and attacked Mi-do. Mr. Park is about to pull a claw hammer special on Dae-soo when Mr. Han shows up, offering Mr. Park a suitcase stuffed with cash in exchange for leaving. As Mr. Park leaves, Dae-soo coldly promises to take his hand next time they meet. Dae-soo and Mi-do escape, and while on the road, their bond grows deeper. Mi-do signals she's ready to take things to the next level, and they share a passionate night. But right after, they're gassed, and Woo-jin leaves them a gruesome gift, a package with Mr. Park's severed hand. Dae-soo realizes Woo-jin has been eavesdropping on their every word. They rush to a shop and manage to find and remove a bug hidden in Dae-soo's shoe. The next day, with Mi-do's help, Dae-soo pieces together that Evergreen refers to his old high school. There, he uncovers that Woo-jin was once a fellow student, a fact confirmed by Ju-won. Ju-won also recalls Woo-jin's sister, who had a notorious reputation at school and eventually took her own life. Enraged by the rumors about his sister, Woo-jin tracks down Ju-won at the internet shop, beating him to death and forcing Dae-soo to listen over the phone. Realizing that the root of his imprisonment might be tied to the tragic death of Woo-jin's sister, Dae-soo reaches out to Mr. Park again. Missing a hand thanks to Woo-jin, Park is now more than willing to cooperate. He agrees to stash Mi-do safely in Dae-soo's former prison to keep her out of Woo-jin's reach. Park also reveals that during Dae-soo's confinement, he was repeatedly drugged and hypnotized, adding a whole new layer to his nightmarish ordeal. Dae-soo tracks down another classmate and presses her for details on Woo-jin and his sister, Soo-ah. She recalls a dark rumor that had circulated at the time, rumors of Soo-ah's promiscuity and even a possible pregnancy. Shockingly, it turns out that the gossip had been sparked by none other than Ju-won, but Dae-soo himself was the original source. Suddenly, a vivid memory resurfaces. Years ago, Dae-soo had accidentally stumbled upon Woo-jin and Soo-ah in an intimate moment, not realizing they were siblings. Naively, he had told a friend what he'd seen, just before moving to a school in Seoul. That innocent remark morphed into vicious rumors, eventually leading Soo-ah to end her life by jumping from a dam on July 5th. It finally hits Dae-soo. Woo-jin blames Dae-soo for his sister's death. With this revelation, Dae-soo hunts down Woo-jin, confronting him with everything he's pieced together. He accuses Woo-jin of tampering with his memory through hypnosis, but Woo-jin insists he never did. Dae-soo simply forgot, dismissing the memory as trivial. Woo-jin claims Dae-soo's casual comment snowballed into a rumor that Soo-ah was pregnant, a scandal that led her to take her own life. Although it's never confirmed if she was actually pregnant, the shame and fear of exposure drove her to suicide. Dae-soo turns the accusation around, suggesting that Woo-jin may have been the one to kill Soo-ah, afraid of fathering her child and using Dae-soo as a scapegoat to ease his own guilt. Woo-jin, unflinching, reveals a photograph of Soo-ah at the dam, taken by him on the day she died, proving he was with her in her final moments. Woo-jin then pulls out his trump card, a photo album. As Dae-soo flips through it, he sees an old family photo of Woo-jin with his wife and young daughter. But with each page, horror builds as he realizes the girl in the photos is Mi-do. In a cruel twist, Woo-jin orchestrated events so that Dae-soo unknowingly fell in love with his own daughter. Woo-jin reveals that he secretly raised Mi-do from age 3, tracking her life and Dae-soo since the day he was imprisoned. Through careful manipulation and hypnosis, Woo-jin engineered their reunion, leading them to an incestuous relationship. Mi-do, meanwhile, finds a pair of angel's wings, the same gift Dae-soo bought for her 4th birthday, confirming the nightmare. Overcome with rage, Dae-soo attacks Mr. Han, but even mortally wounded, Mr. Han subdues him until Woo-jin shoots and kills him. As the chilling reality sinks in, Dae-soo realizes Mr. Park is still working for Woo-jin. In exchange for the prison, Mr. Park had agreed to sever his hand and has now been ordered to deliver a similar album to Mi-do. In a desperate bid to stop this, Dae-soo drops to his knees, barking like a dog and even cutting out his own tongue, begging Woo-jin to spare Mi-do from learning the truth. Woo-jin initially appears to be wiping away tears, but it's soon clear he's smirking, savoring Dae-soo's suffering. His long-fueled need for revenge finally sated, Woo-jin spares Mi-do and prepares to end his life along with Dae-soo's, holding a gun with 1 bullet left. At the last moment, though, he decides otherwise and instead hands Dae-soo a remote switch, implying it will trigger his pacemaker. Dae-soo, seizing it, pushes the button, only to find it activates a tape recorder. Woo-jin exits in an elevator, leaving Dae-soo tormented by the recording, proof of his tragic entanglement with his own daughter. As Woo-jin leaves the scene, we are pulled into a haunting flashback of his sister's death. He's holding Soo-ah over the dam, desperately trying to pull her back from the edge. The scene cuts abruptly, and we hear the deafening sound of a gunshot as Woo-jin ends his life in the elevator. The epilogue unfolds in a desolate, snowy landscape. Dae-soo seeks out the same hypnotist who was once hired by Woo-jin to manipulate his memories. Dae-soo, now mute, writes her a letter asking for help in forgetting the horrific truth. The hypnotist reveals that at first, she didn't want to help him. But something in his final line touched her: even though I'm no more than a beast, don't I, too, have the right to live? This was the same phrase spoken by the suicidal man from the beginning of the movie, whose tragic words have now come full circle. The hypnotist begins the session, instructing Dae-soo to envision himself back at Woo-jin's penthouse. She uses hypnosis to create 2 separate personalities within him: one, the beast, who retains the painful secret, and the other, the ignorant Dae-soo, who is blissfully unaware of it. As the hypnotist asks Dae-soo to split into these 2 selves, a reflection of him appears in the window. The beast stands still, dark and grim, unwilling to leave Dae-soo's mind, while the ignorant version of Dae-soo mourns the loss of his past life. The hypnotist wishes him good luck as the screen fades to black. Dae-soo wakes up. The hypnotist has already left, and he lies on the cold ground, dazed and disoriented. He stumbles, feeling the weight of his memories press on him. Despite his hesitation, he eventually meets Mi-do. They share an embrace, and she softly tells him, "I love you." A smile flickers across his face, but it quickly turns into a tortured grimace, the weight of everything he's endured and the unspeakable truth still haunting him. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notification, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.